Mojang has just released Minecraft 1.21.6 called Chase the Skies. It is not the biggest update we have seen, but it still brings some cool new features that are worth talking about. Let's start with the new mob variant called Happy Ghast. As the name says, it is a happier version of the ghast, which can carry up to 4 players. This is pretty cool, because now you can go and ride with your friends. To get a Happy Ghast, you first need to get a dried ghast, and for that you have 3 options. First of all, you can find a dried ghast in the nether, near the fossil structures. Or secondly, you can craft a dried ghast by placing a soul sand in the middle and cast tears around. Or the third way is you can get the dried ghast when partnering with the piglins. So it is fairly easy to get the dried ghast. Especially I like the crafting recipe, because cast tears finally have another use, except if you like making potions of regeneration, which honestly I have never made. Now, you gotta moisturize the dried ghast by putting it into water and then waiting around 20 minutes. Then a ghastling will spawn. This is a young version of the Happy Ghast. After spawning, the ghastling will follow a player or another mob within a 16 block radius. Or if there is no one to follow, he will idle within a 32 block radius. Then it takes another 20 minutes for the ghastling to grow into a full-sized Happy Ghast. However, the ghastling really likes snowballs, and you can speed up the growing process with those. It is weird for a ghast mob to like snowballs, but that's how it is. Anyway, he grows up and now you have the Happy Ghast. As I said earlier, this is a flying mob which can mount up to 4 players. But to ride with him, you need another new item called the harness. This can be crafted with leather, glass and wool. The color of the wool also changes the color of the harness, although you can change the color later by using a dye. Happy Ghast can be lured closer with 2 things, one being the harness and the other being the snowballs. So it is pretty easy to get him close and attach the harness onto the Happy Ghast. Just wait until he flies towards you and simply right click. Once the harness is equipped, he will start flying away, but you can hold him back by using a lead or with snowballs. Now, the first player who mounts the Happy Ghast will be the driver, and he can control the Happy Ghast movement. What also happens is a pretty cool detail that once you mount him, he will put on his flying goggles. But flying with him is pretty easy though. Press forward and then where you look at, he will go. So if you look up, he flies upwards. If you look down, he goes down. And if you want to go straight up, do it by pressing space. And the third person camera zooms out way further than usual when flying with him. To dismount, simply press the sneak key and then the Happy Ghast will not move and stay at the same height. This might be helpful if you want to build a huge house. So you can use the Happy Ghast as a scaffolding, and Happy Ghast will not panic when they are taking damage, and they can't be bred. When they get hurt, their health slowly regenerates, but it goes faster during snow, rain or flying at the same height as clouds are rendered. The Happy Ghast is definitely a cool traveling method, especially if you want to do it together with your friends. But this is never gonna replace Elytras, because it is not the fastest way to move. 1.21.6 also introduced us to a new music disc called Tears, which sounds like this. This can be obtained when you kill a ghast with its own fireball that you have to hit back to him. Then we got 2 new advancements. Stay hydrated, which you can get when you place a dried ghast into water, and the heart transplanter, which you can get when you place a creaking heart with the correct alignment between 2 pale oak logs. Next up we have a pretty interesting new feature, and it comes extra handy in multiplayer. I'm sure you have tried to meet up with your friends in game, only to realize that they have given the wrong coordinates and now you're even further away. Well, those days are over, thanks to this handy little bar here, called the Locator Bar. This is a new HUD element that displays the direction of other players in your world. It shares a place with the experience bar, but don't worry, when gaining XP, the XP bar is still visible as it was before. And by default, everyone transmits and receives the signal, allowing players to locate their players in multiplayer. It can be also toggled off with a game rule if you don't like it or don't want to use it in your server. But if you don't want to fully disable the feature, there are ways you can temporarily hide yourself from the locator bar. First of them being that you just have to crouch. The same way your name tag disappears when crouching, so does your location from the locator bar. The other method to hide yourself is to wear a mob head, carved pumpkin, or use a potion of invisibility. Overall, I think the locator bar is such a cool little feature that adds a lot to the multiplayer gameplay. These multiplayer changes like the locator bar and the Happy Ghast you can ride together are so much fun. So this is the perfect time to visit wisehosting.com and host a brand new 1.21.6 Minecraft server. We have the new version available right now, and hosting a new server on Wise Hosting takes less than 2 minutes. Wise Hosting was built by us, and it is full of great features in our easy and fun to use game panel. But here is the best part. You can use the code UPDATE to save 25% on your first month of hosting. So check out wisehosting.com by using the link below and start your server today. Now let's get back to the update. I wanna talk about leads, because quite a lot has changed here as well. First of all, the crafting recipe has been made a lot more accessible by removing the slime ball that was previously needed. Now all you need is just 5 string and you can craft yourself 2 leads. This change is big because slime is not a very early game item, unless you happen to spawn in a swamp of course. Meaning now getting leads in the early game is way easier. No need to kill the wandering traders for leads anymore. I'm kidding of course, those guys are so annoying. But the crafting recipe was not the only thing that changed. Leads can now be used to leash 2 mobs together, making it possible to create cool animal trains like this one. Kinda reminds me how llamas interact when they are tamed, and to unleash them you can just use shears now. Leash breaking distance has also changed from 10 to 12 blocks, and a snapping sound has been added when a lead breaks. No more running around with an empty lead thinking that the mob is still attached. Boats and large mobs can now also be leashed in a special 4 leash configuration to the Happy Ghast, making it easier to transport them around as well. In addition to all of that, the overall leash mechanics were improved, allowing for a more stable leash connection, especially when the leashed mobs are not on the ground. So quite a lot of changes to the leads, and it is fun to play around with the new leads. Moving on, let's take a look at the sky. At first you might not even notice that anything has changed, but it has. The whole cloud pattern has changed. Let's look at it side by side for a better understanding. As you can see, the patterns are quite different. The new clouds are a lot bigger and realistic, instead of the scribbled mess that it was before. And there's also this cool little creeper faced Easter egg hidden in the pattern. It looks pretty cool when looking at it from the ground. In addition to the pattern change, the clouds now also exist all the way to the horizon, unlike in the previous version where they just faded out before the horizon. Mojang has also changed the fog in Minecraft. When compared to the previous version, it is now much more foggier, and when it is raining, it is especially foggy. Some players don't really like that it gets this foggy, but I think it makes the game even more immersive. And if you don't like the fog, you can just turn it off with some performance mods. Some older mobs have gotten upgrades as well. Horses, donkeys and mules are not as picky eaters anymore. They don't require golden carrots or golden apples anymore. Regular carrots work now too, making it just a bit easier to obtain one. Staying on the topic of horses, saddles are now craftable. Yep, no need to search for hundreds of chests before you can start riding your beloved horse. You can just craft the saddle yourself. This is an awesome change, since you'll be using an elytra anyway in the late game. So why not make the saddle accessible in the early game? Thank you for that, Mojang. In addition to that, you can now shear the mobs to get the saddles back, just like with the leads. But now let's zoom in a bit. Have you ever noticed that when looking at a lectern in your inventory, the top part actually goes over the inventory slot border? It is a small thing, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Well, in the latest version of 1.21.6, this has been fixed. The next change has something to do with the elytra and the rockets. Have you ever noticed that when gliding with an elytra and accidentally using rockets on a block, it won't actually boost you? Well, this has been fixed. While gliding, using a firework will now only be used as a boost, even if you place it on a block. It is a small fix, but definitely nice to see that Mojang is keeping an eye on all the smaller things as well. So in conclusion, this update may have not been as exciting as some of the previous ones, but that's to be expected. It is a 1.21.6 rather than a major 1.22 update. Still, it is refreshing to see Mojang take the time and refine existing game mechanics. So you should still check out wisehosting.com and host a new 1.21.6 server today, because it is available right now. And with the code update, you can save 25% on your first month. I will see you next time. Bye!